It was an ordinary Tuesday morning at St. Aldan's College, a place well known for its strict rules and old-fashioned discipline. Daniel, a 20-year-old student, sat at the back of the classroom, restless as ever. He had always been mischievous, the type who enjoyed a laugh even at someone else's expense. During the short break between lectures, most students gathered in groups, chatting or scrolling through their phones. Daniel noticed one of his classmates, Oliver, bending down to tie his shoelaces. Without much thought, Daniel quickly pulled out his phone and snapped a photo from an unflattering angle. He smirked at the picture and immediately showed it to two of his friends sitting nearby. The boys burst into laughter, and Daniel felt proud of his joke. For him, it was harmless fun, something to break the boredom of the day. He didn't stop there. Within minutes, he had forwarded the photo to a WhatsApp group with several classmates in it. What seemed like a silly prank to Daniel was about to spiral out of his control. By the end of the break, the picture had already made its way to half the class. Some laughed, some shook their heads in disapproval, but for Oliver, the target of the joke, it was deeply humiliating. His face flushed with embarrassment as whispers followed him around the room. And when Sir Thompson, the class's stern lecturer, walked in and noticed the unusual commotion, he immediately sensed that something was wrong. Sir Thompson entered the classroom, carrying his usual pile of books under one arm. His sharp eyes scanned the room, immediately catching the uneasy silence mixed with scattered snickers. He placed the books on his desk and spoke in his deep, commanding voice. "Why is there laughter in my classroom? What is so amusing before my lecture even begins?" No one answered. Students shifted uncomfortably in their seats, some hiding their phones, others avoiding eye contact. But Oliver sat stiffly, his face red with shame. Finally, gathering courage, he raised his hand. "Sir, Daniel took a photo of me. An embarrassing one. And he shared it with others." The entire class froze. Daniel's smirk faded as quickly as it had appeared. Sir Thompson's gaze immediately snapped toward him. "Daniel," the teacher's voice thundered, "is this true?" Daniel hesitated, clutching his phone tightly. He tried to laugh it off. "It was just a joke, sir. Nothing serious." But Sir Thompson was not a man to be deceived by excuses. He extended his hand firmly. "Phone. Now." Reluctantly, Daniel walked up to the front and handed over his mobile. Sir Thompson scrolled through the screen, and within seconds the evidence was there, the humiliating photo, shared in a group chat. The teacher's expression darkened. "You call this a joke? Humiliating your classmate in front of everyone? Do you think technology is a toy for cruelty?" The class sat in absolute silence. Daniel's head dropped, realizing the gravity of the situation. The laughter from earlier had vanished, replaced by an uncomfortable tension that filled the room. Oliver looked down at his desk, wishing the moment would pass, while Daniel braced himself for the consequences he knew were coming. Sir Thompson closed the phone, his voice cold but firm. "You will learn today, Daniel, that disrespect has consequences." Sir Thompson stood tall at the front of the room, Daniel's phone still in his hand. The class was silent, every student sensing that something serious was about to happen. "Daniel," the teacher began, his voice sharp and steady, "you have humiliated your classmate, spread his image without permission, and treated cruelty as a joke. In this institution, such behavior is not tolerated." Daniel shuffled uncomfortably, staring at the floor. "This is not the first time I've warned you about your childish behavior," Sir Thompson continued. "But today, your actions went beyond mischief. You attacked someone's dignity. And for that, you will face discipline, here and now." The class held its breath. They all knew their teacher's reputation. Sir Thompson believed in traditional methods of discipline, the kind rarely seen in modern schools. When he reached into the corner cupboard and brought out the long, polished cane, whispers rippled through the students. "Stand forward, Daniel," the teacher ordered. Daniel's heart raced, but he obeyed. His steps felt heavy as he walked to the front of the class. He glanced briefly at Oliver, whose eyes stayed fixed on the desk. The embarrassment of being called out in front of everyone was already burning inside him. "Bend forward and place your hands on the desk," Sir Thompson commanded firmly. Daniel hesitated for a moment, then slowly leaned forward, gripping the edge of the desk with his palms. The room was so quiet that the ticking of the wall clock echoed like a drumbeat. The cane swished through the air as Sir Thompson tested its weight. Then, without further warning, he delivered the first sharp strike across Daniel's backside. Crack! The sound echoed in the classroom. Daniel flinched, his knuckles tightening around the desk. Another stroke followed, then another. Each one precise, deliberate, and filled with meaning. By the fourth stroke, Daniel's eyes were watering, not just from the sting, but from the humiliation of standing punished before his classmates. Finally, Sir Thompson lowered the cane. His voice was firm, but calmer now. "Let this be the last time, Daniel. Technology is not a weapon to mock or shame others. Respect your peers, or face even sterner consequences. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir," Daniel whispered, his voice shaky, but loud enough for the whole class to hear. Sir Thompson nodded. "Good. Return to your seat." Daniel straightened up slowly, his face flushed, and walked back to his desk. The atmosphere in the classroom was heavy, but one thing was clear: the message had been delivered. Daniel returned to his seat, the sting of the cane still fresh, but the weight of shame heavier than any pain he felt. He avoided looking at anyone, especially Oliver. His classmates sat quietly, some shaken by what they had witnessed, others clearly understanding that the punishment had been deserved. Sir Thompson placed the cane back in the cupboard and turned to face the room. His voice was calm now, but carried a deep gravity. "Discipline is not about humiliation," he said firmly, looking at every student in turn. "It is about teaching respect and responsibility. Daniel has been punished for his actions, but the lesson is not his alone. It belongs to all of you. Privacy is sacred. Dignity is not something to be toyed with. A single careless act with a phone can cause wounds deeper than you can see." His words lingered in the still air. Daniel slowly raised his head. The guilt that had been burning inside him since the moment he was caught finally overcame his pride. He turned towards Oliver, his voice low but steady. "I'm sorry, Oliver," he said. "I shouldn't have taken that photo or shared it. I was wrong." Oliver glanced at him, still hurt, but after a pause he gave a small nod. "Just don't do it again." Sir Thompson nodded approvingly. That is how a man accepts responsibility. Apology is the first step. Change is the second. Let this be a turning point, Daniel. Daniel swallowed hard and nodded. "Yes, sir. It won't happen again." The teacher placed Daniel's phone on the desk, but not before deleting the photo himself. Technology is a tool, he reminded the class, and tools must be used wisely. In careless hands, they can cause harm. Use them to learn, to grow, not to shame others. The rest of the lesson continued, but the atmosphere had changed. The laughter that had filled the room earlier was gone, replaced with a quiet respect. Daniel sat silently, reflecting not just on the punishment, but on the humiliation he had caused and the lesson he had received. For the first time that day, he felt the sting of regret far deeper than the sting of the cane. When the final bell rang, the students filed out of the classroom in silence, each one carrying the weight of what had just happened. Daniel lingered behind, gathering his books slowly. His pride had been cut down, but in its place grew a new awareness. He had crossed a line, one that hurt not only his classmate, but also his own dignity. As he stepped outside, he glanced at Oliver. Their eyes met briefly. It wasn't friendship yet, but it was no longer hostility either. It was the beginning of understanding. That night, lying in his bed, Daniel thought about Sir Thompson's words. He realized that discipline wasn't meant to destroy him, but to build him into a better man. The cane's sting would fade, but the lesson would remain: respect for others, respect for privacy, and the knowledge that actions, especially careless ones, carry consequences. And for the rest of the class, the message was equally clear: a phone should never be used as a weapon. Laughter at someone else's expense is cruelty, not humor. And true strength lies not in mocking others, but in protecting their dignity.